Hi guys, Crypto Sunday, and it's a fairly flat, slow week, which considering the war breaking out, I suppose isn't the worst thing, to be honest. Kind of sort of maybe front run the war breaking out in price coming down. We haven't actually got to anywhere close to a new low yet, sort of below 60,000. Bitcoin popped up to sort of 73, 74 nearly, I think, and has come back down again. Not hugely surprising, sort of gold and silver and stocks breaking down a little bit, but yeah, not the worst thing in the world to be at 67 at a time like this. Looking at the CoinShares report, we got a inflow of just over $1 billion, which is pretty strong. And this was sort of fairly spread out across, Bitcoin 881 million as usual, but the rest sort of spread out. Ethereum 116 million, 53 million into Solana, which is not too bad. Outflow out of the multi-asset, which seems totally uncorrelated to everything, and a little bit, single figures into XRP, short Bitcoin. People still obviously making a little bit of money out of that, I expect. Chainlink 3 million and others 5 million. Looking at the by country, sort of split some inflows into Canada, Germany, and Switzerland. Sort of usual players. Everyone else sort of single figures, other than obviously the US at 957. So looking at the recent week, looks like we're going to get an inflow week. Not a huge one, but I suppose to get an inflow week at all at times like these is probably quite good. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday saw inflows just over $1 billion, 1.1 billion is that. Not too bad. And then Thursday and Friday, sort of a rocky day for markets in general. We saw a couple of outflow days, totaling sort of 570 million. But yeah, overshadowed by the 1.1 billion in previous. So rather nice. Still getting old grayscale, sort of chopping around. So yeah, make of that what you will. Ethereum, from the looks of it, didn't do quite so well. Sort of got an inflow Monday and Wednesday, reasonable inflow Wednesday, 170 million, but outflows Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it's basically flat for the week from the looks of it. Those three pretty much all cancelling each other out. So yeah, kind of led by Fidelity from the looks of it, 66 million and 115 million outflow, and then another 67 on Friday. Not a huge amount of outflow elsewhere, and sort of fairly consistent small numbers from BlackRock. So well done to them, and money going into grayscale, I suppose, is still a little bit strange. Well, not the new grayscale, obviously that's the cheapest one. And Solana with some interesting numbers, sort of very similar to Bitcoin. Inflows Monday, slight inflow Tuesday, and inflows Wednesday, and then two outflow days, but quite overshadowed. Sort of two double-figure inflow days and two single-figure outflow days. So overall, pretty good. The outflows came largely from Fidelity, and inflows going into Bitwise. So yeah, Bitwise doing pretty well. Matt Hogan sort of on the media quite a bit. You don't really hear a huge amount from Fidelity. So yeah, well done to Bitwise. Looking at strategy and the treasury companies, they made a 3,015 Bitcoin purchase for $204 million, 67,000. So round about the current price, not the worst thing in the world. Total average, average is actually coming down now. With them buying, they obviously bought so much that they're average went up to 76,000. So what they are currently buying is bringing their average down. So yeah, people will see that as not the worst thing in the world. They now have 720,737, and they are in the red. So yeah, got to see if they can carry on selling common stock and selling the preferred shares with I think it's 10.5% yield now. So increasing their future liabilities, and I would call down pressure, sell pressure for MSTR common stock. But yeah, people are getting a little bit obsessed with watching the preferred shares, in my opinion. Masari did a little bit of research on strategy and put out a report. This is a paid report, but I just sort of thought it was interesting to see the headlines. They've increased their annual sort of obligations from 645 million in sort of dividends for the preferred shares to now $860 million in just over 5 months. So yeah, part of that is from increasing their dividend rate from 9% to 11.25. And yeah, basically, they've been sort of every now and then selling quite a bit of common stock to build up a USD reserve. People don't seem to see the correlation between sort of stock price not doing particularly well and selling common stock and keeping the cash rather than buying Bitcoin. I suppose buying Bitcoin, it would have been above probably current price, so maybe the USD reserve isn't the worst thing, but that USD reserve is just to pay the dividend. So if you sort of sell common stock, raise the cash and then issue preferred stock and then use that cash to pay the dividend, it sort of all seems a little bit circular, basically. And they are noting, people sort of keep banging on about strategy, saying basically they are perfectly safe until $8,000. And I think too many people are sort of, seeing that as, well, everything's fine unless that goes to $8,000. But obviously, if you have $100,000 dollars of debt, say, and you sell one Bitcoin to when Bitcoin's 100,000, you sell one Bitcoin to pay off that debt. If Bitcoin drops to 50,000, you now have to sell off two Bitcoin to pay off the same amount of debt. And if it fell to $8,000, then you'd have to sell 12 Bitcoin to pay off the same $100,000 of debt. So that would be tanking Strategy's share price. So every, basically the share price is leveraged to Bitcoin going down because they would have to sell potentially more and more of their Bitcoin war chest to fund that sort of fixed price debt. It's good on the way up, but not exactly on the way down. They note 100% entirely convertible debt array is now out of the money, so if it carries on at current price, they would have to start selling Bitcoin or finding some other strange way to pay off that debt, whether they can refinance. But yeah, I think sort of, as I say, too many people focus on whether the whole company would go bust with this like $8,000 figure, rather than whether MSTR shares would actually underperform or outperform Bitcoin. So yeah, just thought it was interesting. Masari did a second report on Solana, sort of specifically focusing on payments. So this isn't payments for the whole of crypto. This is focused entirely on Solana, and there is enough to fill an entire report in addition to the main state of Solana report that they did. I thought this was a somewhat disingenuous chart, sort of showing how existing companies are growing. People like PayPal, total payment volume growth, 6% from PayPal, 7.5%, 7.7% from Block, Adyen, sort of reasonably up-and-coming company, trying to take on PayPal. The playing footsie guys are big fans of Adyen, growing at 43%. And then, obviously, the crypto side are growing from a considerably smaller base, but putting up large growth numbers. So 490% from Tron, 625 from Ethereum, 648 from BNB chain, and 755% from Solana. So outpacing all of these others, which is good. But I think it's a little bit disingenuous to to show this compared to PayPal and people like that, because they are starting from a much smaller base. So yeah, not the best chart to show if you're trying to be legitimate, I would say. So I mean, you can have a read of this report if you like yourself. I sort of had a quick read through, and it does look quite a lot of sort of partnerships and developments and things going on. It's sort of real world use rather than just speculation on meme coins and things. But yeah, quite a lot to read through. Just checking in on an old holding as well. Masari did their State of Cardano report. Obviously, this is quite out of date now. Some of these reports do come out very, very late in the day. This is Q4 2025, so Cardano up to December. Christmas sort of seems an awfully long time ago now, but yeah, key metrics, daily active addresses are down 30% from Q3 to Q4 last year. Not exactly great, down 56% year on year. Daily transactions, similar, 27% and 63% year on year. And DeFi TVL, that's partly down with the token prices, but daily NFT volume in ADA terms, so that is not price affected. That's how much ADA, although a lot of people did always used to seem to think of ADA terms in they used to think of NFTs sort of, some people think of it in dollar terms, some people think of it in the crypto terms. So you'd say, an NFT is 5 ETH, for example, regardless of what ETH price is, or some people will think it's $1,000 and divide that by the current price of ETH or ADA in this case. And to be fair, they're growing NFT volume quite aggressively, sort of 50,000, 64, 331,000, and now 975,000 ADA. That is sort of coinciding with a drastically lower token price. So maybe people do think of their NFTs on Cardano in US dollar terms rather than ADA terms, and that's why it's up. But yeah, either way, it's quite significantly up. So yeah, I won't go through this too much, as it's not a holding anymore. But I just thought it was interesting to sort of highlight that lots of other chains are doing quite poor. Some quick stories as well. I thought this was funny. The Mt. Gox CEO is proposing a hard fork to the entire Bitcoin network to recover $5.2 billion worth of Bitcoin from the original 2011 theft of Mt. Gox. And I think, if we're not going to do a hard fork to get over sort of quantum risk to the entire network, which it seems, we might do, but they're fairly reluctant to do that. To recover $5 billion worth of Bitcoin seems a little bit unlikely, but that is what is being suggested, and yeah, can't see that going anywhere. And the Kazakhstan Central Bank investing $350 million worth of their gold and forex reserves into digital assets. So they're obviously a reasonably well-off country. They have nearly $70 billion of of reserves in gold and foreign exchange. So interesting that they would be selling potentially selling some gold to buy sort of crypto assets. Maybe that is largely foreign exchange reserves, so cash. But yeah, they're investing in crypto infrastructure firms, tech stocks, and funds tied to digital assets. So, your sort of Coinbases and people like that. Probably not Coinbase themselves, but, companies in the infrastructure side. And they have noted potentially funds. They could be, buying Asia's first spot Bitcoin ETF, which was launched last year. So could provide a bit of direct buy pressure to Bitcoin and other crypto, but will probably largely be in the stocks. And obviously 350 million isn't exactly going to make a huge deal, but just thought it was interesting that it's a central bank. So good. And CoinDesk did an interesting little sort of roundup, 19th of February. A couple of weeks old now, but there's some interesting sort of numbers in here. Had sort of a few charts, obviously noting Bitcoin's return compared to gold and S&P 500. Obviously, in last sort of year, it's gold has outpaced pretty much everything. The S&P up sort of 16%, gold 85%, and Bitcoin down 27%. So yeah, to call this sort of correlated with stocks, I don't really think is the case. It sort of did outperform for part of 2025 and has now underperformed with stocks not really going anywhere. So yeah, to say it's just 3x sort of levered S&P or Nasdaq, I don't think is quite the case. And they're sort of CoinDesk are suggesting that this is price going down while fundamentals are still looking good. Bit of a disconnect, showing the stablecoin market, is growing drastically. Quite a lot of it on Ethereum. Tron sort of still maintaining, increasing their numbers, maybe not increasing their market share. And yeah, some other chains. You got others there sort of growing. You got Hyperliquid, Base, BSC, Solana, not exactly growing. They have their payments, payments little Masari report, but they're a very small proportion of this total. So yeah, stablecoins are seen as sort of favourable for the US Treasury, so could see this growing quite significantly in the future. DEX volumes, so trading is sort of not quite at the highs. Was sort of very much a peak around sort of September, October time. And you had at the beginning of 2025, you had the Trump coin and Melania coin launch. So interesting to see this November or October peak was higher than the Trump coin peak. I sort of kind of saw some numbers in the Masari reports that suggested different. And sort of very recently, in late February time, we've been back up to sort of the highs of where Trump coin and Melania coin launched. So yeah, a little bit unusual and not what I've been seeing before. App revenue is looking reasonably okay, not sort of completely in the doldrums as token prices are. And again, this is sort of quite a hefty chunk on Solana, a sort of somewhat lower amount on Ethereum, and quite a lot on Hyperliquid, to be fair. And you've got others there making up quite a big chunk, but that's all the others combined together, so not exactly a huge surprise. Daily active users, sort of similar numbers really. Ethereum fairly constant, but not exactly high. BNB chain increasing quite a lot over 2025, so That's quite strong for them. Token sort of held up pretty well. Tron just sort of steadily going up all the time. Really does surprise me that people are still using that for stable coins and gambling, from what I understand. Others sort of, unsurprisingly, others can sort of go up over time because it is, all of the others combined. And this green one on Solana is, I thought, was pretty good. You've had sort of huge numbers in the sort of meme coin time, but it has sort of recently gone up as well in January and February to sort of close to the highs. So yeah, that's pretty good. Digital asset treasuries holdings of Bitcoin. This is, largely MicroStrategy buying, but you do have some of the others as well. Some of those are selling their Bitcoin and doing buybacks. So yeah, majority of that is going to be strategy, and I wouldn't see that as a counter, divergence. Noticing on Hyperliquid and Binance now that starting to trade more traditional assets. The weekly gold and silver trading volume on Binance, it sort of wasn't really a thing towards the end of last year. They started to introduce it, and end of January into February, it went completely mental. So what is it? Over $30 billion of gold and silver together. 21 billion of that on silver and 12 billion on gold. Sort of, bookended by some slightly smaller but still massive weeks. So, yeah, crypto exchanges getting into more sort of real world assets, as they say. Prediction markets as well, looking pretty strong, unsurprisingly. Sort of a lot of talk that this may have overtaken some of the attention from meme coins because you're betting on something real as opposed to sort of random crappy coins. Stablecoin payments. Interesting to note that sort of business to business stablecoin payments is, by far the largest growing sector, pretty much the only growing sector. Card payments sort of growing a little. Business to customer sort of barely there. Pre-funding and person to person stablecoins sort of pretty much flat. So yeah, business to business is growing. Quite strange. Real world assets as well. Total value locked. This is increasing quite a bit. Treasuries is sort of the large part of it. Not a huge surprise there. That's what the US government are very, very keen on, it seems. Commodities growing quite a bit over this last year, and yeah, other fixed income, private credit. These aren't huge sort of sectors. The whole sort of total is $24 billion, but just interesting to see you getting all of these being tokenized. And when we've had a fairly poor year, was it 27% in the last year down on Bitcoin? You've got all this, basically straight line up over the last year. So that was quite interesting. And yeah, that was the report. You can have a read of that yourself if you like, but I thought some interesting numbers in there. Checking in on the Bitcoin difficulty, we did have quite a large spike on Thursday to 1.25 zeta hash, and it's sort of come down again. We did have the adjustment a couple of days ago on Thursday. It was almost flat, 144.4 up to 145.04, so not a huge change there. And currently we are at 10.03 minutes, so again almost no change, but it's currently March the 19th it's projected for, so plenty of time to change before that. Another 12 days to go. Looking at the global liquidity, compressed the price here just so it's easier to see the orange line. You can sort of see these weekend points here where it doesn't move. Just sort of handy to indicate where the weekends are. I do sometimes flick on to the 2-hour chart just to sort of show this view a little bit more clearly, and we have had quite a stark decline, erasing sort of the last good few weeks of gains. This sort of largely off the back of the dollar, US dollar raising against a lot of other currencies, dollar index up, and that does sort of create quite a knock on global liquidity. But yeah, I'm sure we can sort of recover from this as the war starts to play its course. And zooming out to the daily, obviously not a lot changes in this, but you have hit a a little peak there, and sort of coming down ever so slightly, with Bitcoin itself sort of rising a little bit and settling at a higher low, potentially the start of these crocodile jaws sort of coming together, and who knows sort of where they would meet in the middle. It could be sort of Bitcoin staying where it is and liquidity coming down, or both going down and meeting somewhere, or they just don't meet and there's no correlation to this at all. It's all been coincidence for a number of years. I still think that's rather unlikely. So looking at coins for the week, it's rather stark difference. Bitcoin up 1.26% and pretty much everything else in the red, except honey, which is 0.38% up. But that's almost a dead coin, I would say. But yeah, some of the others: Ethereum 1% down, Solana 2.7, Chainlink 2.3. Helium, that had been doing sort of quite well, that's down 10% this week, but still sort of looking pretty good on the last couple of months, certainly. And yeah, some of the Solana ecosystem coins not doing particularly well. Radium, Gito, Metaplex, all sort of down 3 or 4%. But I think we just need to stay patient and see how some of this plays out. So yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Another fairly slow week. Stay patient and like and subscribe. See you soon.